The Sealed World. It is the year 1650, somewhere between the ancient silence of Kyoto's temples and the raw, muddy energy of a city called Edo, a city that does not yet know it will one day become Tokyo. The world holds its breath. Japan is 47 years into an experiment unprecedented in human history. A deliberate, government-enforced isolation from the rest of the globe. The Sakoku decrees of 1635 and 1639 have sealed the archipelago like a jar. No Japanese citizen may leave under penalty of death. No foreign ship may enter, except for one, a small Dutch trading post on the artificial island of Dejima in Nagasaki harbor, connected to the mainland by a single bridge guarded day and night. Through that needle eye passes the only current of outside knowledge. Everything else Japan knows, Japan must make itself. The city that fed a million mouths. In 1650, Edo is already startling. Its population hovers around 300,000 souls, making it one of the largest cities on the planet, rivaling London, surpassing Paris, eclipsing anything in the Americas. And it is not yet 50 years old. The Tokugawa shogunate moved its capital here in 1603, choosing a swampy estuary at the edge of a bay over the refined courts of Kyoto, precisely because it was not ancient. It was blank, controllable. Walk through Edo in 1650, and you walk through a city of contradictions. At its heart stands the shogun's castle, its white walls lacquered against the salt air, its moats concentric rings of authority. Around it, in every direction, spread the daimyo districts, the 100-plus feudal lords who are required, under the Sankin Kotai system, to spend alternate years in Edo, leaving their families behind as polite hostages when they return home. This single policy, barely a decade old, has transformed the city. It means constant construction, constant supply chains, constant crowds of retainers, horses, porters, and provisioners moving between the capital and the provinces. The city breathes with a rhythm imposed by politics. 4 pillars, 4 lives. The Tokugawa social order sorts every human being in Japan into one of 4 categories, arranged in a strict vertical hierarchy: samurai at the top, then farmers, then artisans, then merchants. The system is called Shi no Ko Sho, and in 1650 it is still fresh enough to feel like law carved into stone. The samurai make up roughly 6% of the population, but in 1650, after decades of enforced peace, they are something genuinely strange, a warrior caste with no wars to fight. They carry 2 swords, the long katana, the short wakizashi, as symbols of status, but the last major battle was Osaka in 1615. Most samurai spend their days in bureaucratic work, administering fiefs, collecting taxes, filing documents. Some grow restless. A few study philosophy or poetry with a devotion that would have surprised their grandfathers. Here is the detail most people do not know. Many samurai families are quietly impoverished. Their stipends are paid in rice, measured in koku. Each koku roughly the amount needed to feed one person for a year. A low-ranking samurai might receive 30 koku annually. His family eats. Barely. The farmers are theoretically the second most honored class. They feed the nation, and Confucian thought grants them dignity. In practice, they are the most heavily taxed. In 1650, a typical village household surrenders between 30 and 40% of its rice harvest to the domain lord. What remains must sustain a family through winter, pay for seeds, and leave enough to survive the next bad harvest. Farmers sleep on straw mats in thatched houses with earthen floors. They wake before dawn. They eat rice, miso soup, pickled vegetables, and if the harvest was good, perhaps a sweet potato. The merchants ranked last in the official order because they produce nothing. They merely move goods, are quietly staging one of history's most ironic reversals. By 1650, the rice economy has created a bizarre paradox. The feudal lords need cash, merchants have cash, and so lords quietly borrow from the very people their ideology ranks below farmers. Some merchant families are already accumulating wealth that would embarrass a daimyo. They cannot display it openly. Sumptuary laws restrict what fabric a merchant may wear, what decorations they may use in their homes. So they spend lavishly on things the law hasn't thought to ban yet: art, theatre, perfumed paper, exquisite lacquerware hidden behind plain wooden screens. The floating world. Inside the city, below the official hierarchy, something else is growing. In the licensed pleasure districts, most famously Yoshiwara in Edo, a parallel culture blooms. This is the ukiyo, the floating world. Kabuki theatres with their elaborate costumes and all-male casts, tea houses where geisha train for years in music and conversation, woodblock print shops selling affordable images of actors and courtesans to townspeople who will never own a painting. Culture, in Tokugawa Japan, is not merely for the elite, it is for the merchant who can spend his hidden wealth on a theatre ticket. It is for the craftsman who can afford a print. The floating world is, in its way, democratic, or at least for sale.
We offer
What the
this
walls
incense in
remember,
reverence.
and yet
May our
walk
prayers be
20
heard
minutes from
and our
Edo's
hearts
Yoshiwara,
purified.
and you are in a farmhouse where a
Look
family
at how
has
the
never
old
heard
moat
kabuki,
still
has
shapes
never
the
seen a
city,
woodblock
even
print,
with the new
and will
buildings.
likely never travel further than the nearest market town in their lifetime. Japan in 1650 is a country of extraordinary internal complexity held inside extraordinary external stillness. The borders are closed, the shogun is watching, the roads are patrolled, and within all of that, within the controlled, catalogued, surveilled society, ordinary people are finding the ancient human ways to be alive, eating together, loving badly, praying hard, making beautiful things. What they left us. 375 years later, you can still feel the shape of 1650 if you know where to look. Tokyo's street grid still bends around the outline of the old Edo castle moats. The tea ceremony that a samurai's wife might have practiced in a hillside tea house in Kyoto still follows the same
Are they the black
gestures,
ships?
the same silences.
What will
The
become of us?
woodblock print tradition that grew from the floating world souvenir trade would eventually reach Van Gogh, who pinned Hiroshige's work to his studio wall in Paris and felt it change how he saw color. And Sakoku, that great experiment in isolation,
The black
left
ships are a
Japan
grave
with
threat
a
to our
paradox
sovereignty.
But
it
the
is still
reports
working
suggest their
through.
cannons are superior.
A culture so
We must
internally
consider trade.
refined, so
Clear the way,
self-sufficient in its
more coming
beauty,
through.
that when the American warships appeared in 1853 and
I
the
have
walls
never seen
finally came
anything
down,
like it.
the world outside was
This
both
technique is
shocking
called
and,
maki-e, using
somehow,
gold dust
already
sprinkled
half
onto the
known.
wet lacquer.
Japan
It is
had been
truly
watching through
exquisite
the
work.
needle eye of Dejima all along. It had seen enough to be ready. The question was never whether Japan would open. It was whether the world was ready for what emerged.